Hello and welcome to a special episode of the Palaver Project. I'm Michael Rivera. With me is my wife, Nereida Rivera. And today we are talking about something that hits kind of close to home. On August 3rd, 2019, a 21-year-old man drove from Allen, Texas to the border city of El Paso, Texas. That is where he entered a local Walmart store, frequented by both local and Mexican consumers, and opened fire, killing 20 people and injuring 24. According to his online manifesto, he was directly inspired by the mosque shootings in Christchurch, New Zealand, that occurred in March of this year, which left 51 people dead. So inspiration aside, between then and now, there have been shootings all over the United States. The predominant ones covered by the media being at a public works building in Virginia Beach, Virginia, a nightclub in Allentown, Pennsylvania, a synagogue up north of us in Poway, California, and further north at a garlic festival, Gilroy, California, which happened a little less than a week before the El Paso shooting. Not to mention that later that night they had a shooting in Dayton, Ohio, which I believe left 10 people dead. When compiling the list, I realized the prevalence of gun violence resulting in mass injuries, if not mass casualties in the United States, just this year alone. However, it is difficult not to focus on the last incident because of the several key points, which is the points that have my wife and I concerned from the El Paso shooting. Number one, the shooter admitted to targeting Mexicans, regardless of nationality or political affiliation. If you were brown, he was shooting. Number two, the shooter believed that lack of political resolutions towards the immigration issue has given rise to a Hispanic invasion, so he calls it, which would eventually lead to a one-party political control due to the sympathetic leanings that Mexicans have towards the Democratic Party. This is his belief. Number three, the shooter drove 8 hours to make his deadly statement in a strategic location. He didn't do it in his hometown of Allen, Texas. No, he drove 8 hours to go to a border city, a gateway to immigrants, legal and illegal. The shooter did this to inspire others of his ilk, which have grown more and more bold and brazen in practicing their convictions. My wife and I are citizens of the United States. We live in the city of Chula Vista, which is in the county of San Diego. It's only minutes from the city of Tijuana, Mexico. We're not new to discrimination or derogatory remarks, unfair work opportunities, underpaid labor, etc. This is simply the reality of the situation. That we live, we work hard within the system, we respect the rule of law, and most of all, believe in the country. We believe in the United States. I know no other country than this one here. I was born in LA, raised in San Diego, and this is all I know. And I'm proud to know it, and I'm proud to live under this country. Yet there are those within these walls that have become overwhelmed by hate and ignorance, whether fueled by political apathy, rhetoric, or media saturation. There are those who have been forgotten by society, who have been allowed to wallow and fester in mental instability, anger, depression, and fear. They're just lone wolves waiting for the opportunity to strike. Then there are the countless criminals drawn to the gun like kids are to candy. The shootings you don't hear about unless they're local. like home invasions, robberies, assaults, drive-bys, a party that gets out of hand. We all heard the profiles, the media feeds it to us all the time. We gather the data and draw our own conclusions, of course. We are human after all. So, as humans, we do tend to introspect, analyze, and reach a conclusive opinion. So that's where we are at. We are going to sit down and talk about this. Talk about what's weighing down our minds. Being two Mexican Americans, raising a family, living in a border city. We're going to share our thoughts and concerns. You're free to join this palaver on our social media pages. I do look forward to hearing and reading your thoughts. So we're going to get down to it. And I'm going to ask my wife this. We're a week out of El Paso now. It's been over a week since the El Paso shooting. How does the El Paso shooting make you feel? Specifically about El Paso.
It made me feel very sad because how easy it is for a person to just grab a gun and make the decision to go and kill people. People who are doing their daily shopping or in just like another normal day for them, not knowing that what's gonna happen and that they're not going back home.
I told you about this guy. He's targeting Mexicans. He submitted to it. He wrote about it online, posted it online about the Hispanic invasion, feeling that Hispanics are coming in and taking over, and it's going to end up that it's going to be a one-party control. Like one side is going to win, and it's not going to be balanced, and that's why he feels like there's a threat, and an economic threat too, with us being here. There's a lot of people out there that think that he has a point. Do you think there's a point? I mean, let's put aside the reaction that he had, but do you think there's a point to it? Do you think there's a point to his anger and his concerns?
No, I don't think so.
Do you? I mean, people forget, El Paso, San Diego, Calexico, different, Nogales. I mean, these are all border cities, on top of my head, that there's a lot of consumers from both the U.S. side and the Mexican side. There's a lot of business going on a daily basis. People coming in, coming out, doing business here, bringing money here. People who work here, pay taxes here. And they're Mexican. And it's not just Mexicans. There are a lot of other immigrants who cross the border legally, too. Right now, the news media covers a lot about the surge of illegal immigration coming across the country. It's one of President Trump's main issues. And he talks so much about it. Talks so much about building the wall, keeping illegals out. That there's a crisis in the border. How much all that talk, all that stuff that you hear in the news, that you read on your Facebook timeline, how much do you think is causing this? Do you think the politics right now behind the whole immigration situation is the reason that we're seeing more of these? We're seeing this right now.
Yes, because I think what the president said before give these ideas and to these persons who are doing that. What the president says is it's giving them like they feel that what are they doing, it's okay because the president says, like he does he gives a lot of racist
remarks.
Yeah.
I mean, he even says Hispanic invasion in one of his speeches early on. In one of his stump speeches, he does say it is an invasion.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the same type of words that the shooter uses in his manifesto. It's an Hispanic invasion. So there has to be some accountability from the president in the words he uses to rally up his supporters. Now, the president isn't the one who pulls the trigger, I understand, but he is the one who spews the remarks, the words, and gives fuel to the fire. And the fact that these people who do it, a lot of these people were able to purchase guns legally. What does that tell us about guns right now? Guns in the United States. People are reaching for these not as a tool to, sport or to hunt. Or to defend themselves. This is a tool to kill.
To kill people.
To kill people. These assault rifles, these high level, high caliber assault rifles only have one purpose, and it's to take down people with maximum efficiency. And it just makes you wonder, it's where are the checks for these guys? Where are the background checks to keep these, the people who do this, they're not all there. Obviously there's a mental health issue. A lot of people don't want to talk about mental health, or they do, but they want to point out the gun part. It's guns in America. We need to do something about these guns. I get it. There's a gun issue because there's a gun problem because there's not enough background checks. There's not enough mental health examinations that are going along with this, and it's not being shared on a federal level. Like here in California, there's a lot of gun rules, but you can go out of state and buy in Nevada or New Mexico or Arizona and come back here and do something, or go to another state and do something. Like Illinois has a bunch of gun laws, but the state next to them doesn't. So people can buy over there, crooks can buy there, and that's what they use for their drive-by shootings, or when a deal goes bad and they want to take out the competition or what have you, whatever scenario you want to throw out there. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be mass shooting. It could just be gang violence. It can just be a burglary. And I mean, those are the stuff you don't hear, but this gets fueled by the fact that the rules in one state isn't the same as another state. And so people are wanting that there's a rule for the entire country. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think they need to tighten up on guns? Do you think that a rule, I'm not saying get rid of guns completely. For me, I don't think that's the answer. You have to reach a middle ground, a compromise.
But maybe, like you say, in the whole country, they should do that. Have the same
rules.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would help. I mean, let's go down. We already talked politics. You think Trump's rhetoric needs to be toned down and needs to take some accountability for it. And you know what? Come 2020, I think a lot of voters are going to consider that, because it is something that's happening under his watch now. It's not Obama. I mean, it was happening during Obama's term too. There were shootings. Sandy Hook, the school shootings were happening there. So, it's something needs to be done. It's not just Trump. It's got to be Congress. I mean, this shooter points out that Congress wasn't doing anything, and I can't disagree with that. Congress wasn't doing anything. Congress hasn't done anything. The Senate hasn't done anything. And this is really going into the weeds of the politics part, but it's just a mention. It's like we all live in our states, in our cities, in our municipalities. We all have our congressmen. If you guys don't like what you're hearing, push your congressman. If not your congressman, go the next step up. Your senator. Because that's the problem right there. All the gun legislation that's been pushed through the House of Representatives gets stopped by the Senate. They don't even bring it up to discuss. And that's bad. It's like all the hard work to push gun reform, and it gets stopped because they don't want to talk about it. So this is everybody who hears me, and I know there's people all over the country that listen to this podcast. Send the message to your congressman, send it to your senator that you want some changes done. Find a compromise. But it's not just politics, and it's not just the gun issue. It's also the people who get these guns. There's an obvious mental health problem. And mental health doesn't get covered as much as it should in America. It's not something that's mandated unless there's a problem that comes out. But there's a lot of folks out there who are stubborn, who don't believe that they have a problem, and they don't go see a shrink. They don't talk to a therapist or a psychologist or a counselor. There are those people who are loners. They're the loners and they don't and they spend their teenage life, their young adult life, angry and alone.
They don't want to get help.
Like the guy in Dayton, Ohio. That guy had a hit list. He had a hit list and a rape list. He had a hit list for all the guys that he despised from high school on, and then all the women that he despised and hated and maybe even probably felt rejected or ignored by. He had a rape list. That's how disturbed this dude was in Dayton, Ohio. It's really bad how fragile people have become and how extreme in their hate, in their instability. And it's like I don't know, it's like it does come from the home. I think families need to reach out more to professionals if they see this in their kids before it gets worse, before they become adults, before they can buy a gun.
Or education too. They need more education. They need more attention, more love.
Yeah, it just really needs to start at home. I mean, especially if you're like those. I hear about those gun owners. Remember Sandy Hook? The mother of the shooter had guns, and totally accessible to the shooter. And it's just like, how can you do this if you know that your son has an issue, has a known mental issue, and does not understand, or maybe does, but he has this tendency for guns. So why have it in access for him?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it's almost like just a complete lack of common sense. And it's like it's adults who are doing this that we're screwing up. Another thing that we screw up about, and I don't want to feel like I'm not trying to say ban video games. I'm not that old and extreme about it. I love video games. I play video games, but I have the common sense not to play Call of Duty in front of my kids. You know, those shooting games or Grand Theft Auto. When have you ever seen me play Grand Theft Auto in front of the kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and that's something we need to all kind of start put into consideration. Guys, I understand violent video games may not be the blame if you're an adult and you can separate reality to and fantasy. But if you are a kid and you're exposed to that early on, it kind of warps you. You know, it's the reason why you don't watch rated R movies or watch super scary movies when you're a kid. It can warp you. It can traumatize you. It can have an effect on you that lasts longer, and it's an undercurrent. You don't notice it until it's already kind of had its weight on your brain. It's nothing against video games. It's just appropriately, it needs to be to the right age group. That's the reason why it says M for mature on them, right? Mm-hmm. And I hear my friends have even told me that they're like nephews or they're you know, they've seen neighbors' kids playing these games at 7 or 8 years old. Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty. What kind of stuff is that, you know?
They're not paying attention, the parents. Maybe.
They're letting the video games kind of raise their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of bullshit needs to stop. So we've covered, you know, politics. We've covered mental health, the gun problem, violent video games. I mean, these are all what people believe are the causes for the mass shootings, right? But still, it's just, let's not stray too much from El Paso. I mean, look at the guy, the shooter here. He's a self-proclaimed white nationalist. There's all this threat about Mexicans and Hondurans in El Salvador, MS-13. They're going to come and they're going to shoot up, you know, they're going to shoot us up and rape, you know, our women. And this is shit. This kind of bullshit. And right now, what is filling up the news? Who are the killers? I don't hear anything about a Mexican killer. I'm hearing a white dude, armed to the teeth, shooting up and killing. It just tells me this. White America has become a threat to themselves. All these decades, all these centuries, eliminating the Native Americans, pushing out the Mexicans from their land, enslaving African Americans, colonizing countries, taking their resources. I mean, it's manifest destiny. This is how the country's grown. It's our dirty. It's not our dirty secret. Not so much. It's not really a secret. Everyone knows it. If not, go back and read your U.S. history. I mean, and despite this, I still believe in this country because of the change and progression that we have done. The Constitution has grown. The amendments has improved the quality of life for everybody, for everyone. But yet, all this change has kind of brought this little group of white nationalists that they see the way the country's changing and they're violently resisting change. They have become a threat to themselves, to the rule of law, and to this this democratic republic they supposedly pledged to protect. This quote-unquote supremacy is nothing more than a charade. It's fake. It's a misplaced ideology fueled by selective memory and fear. I mean, with all this crap that's happened, Are you afraid of living in a border city right now? We live in San Diego. We live right across 5 minutes, like a couple minutes away from, 10 minutes away from Tijuana. Does it make you feel like we're a target now?
I think we are a target anywhere we go. If it's a border state or
it could be Idaho or it could be like Montana.
Anywhere. Yeah, anywhere, because this been happen in other places too, not just like in a border state. And who can tell that there's no other white person, another white racist person up in another state?
I mean, there's plenty of racists out here right now who pretend to be vigilantes who watch the border. You know, and who knows what type of harassment they're doing to immigrants who are crossing here, who are trying to get a better life, albeit illegally. And let this be a point. I want to make sure this is clear. I don't condone that. I mentioned in an earlier podcast, it's not worth crossing the treacherous terrains and risking your lives and your kids' lives for. But also in the attempt that they're doing, I would hope that they're getting humane treatment when they are being apprehended or recovered. But unfortunately, we've seen the videos of the shelters, the places they're being sheltered in, and not so much. You know, it's not there's
no more space for more people.
No. And it's a really bad situation, and it's something that we need to see more money being put into to fix it. We need to still be a humanitarian state. We need to be able to provide for them as they are being sent back. We need to improve the quality, because we need to set an example. We can't be having something that looks like a concentration camp. You know, we don't want to give we don't need to. It's optics. We don't need to be giving that kind of image.
It's like what the president says. Like, what did he say? Like there's no place for hate.
Yeah.
But what he says is another thing.
What he says and what actually happens. I mean, he says one thing, there's no place for hate, but yet he fuels the hate. That's this rhetoric. That's what got him elected. It's that he wants that reaction. Maybe it's not hate. He's promoting something that these guys want, and they want it so much that they're willing to do violent things to get it. And I know our minds on this. I mean, because heck, we are Mexican Americans. We are the target to these white nationalistic threat. And we're not the only targets. I mean, before us, of course, there were African Americans, and even then, right now, they're 6 out of the 10 that were shot in Dayton, Ohio, were African American. So I mean, it's I don't know if it's coincidence, but it's minorities have to be fearing for their lives right now. I mean, and then think about it. Like, if you're an immigrant now coming in here legally, not just illegally. Illegally, you're already coming in with fear. But if you're legally coming here to work, how afraid you are. How crazy the United States must look right now when you're coming in here.
People don't want to come here anymore. People from
like Juarez,
they are thinking to just stay there and buy their things there instead of coming here. That's what they're gonna start doing now, just buying what they need over there, that side. They don't want to come here.
You know, Tijuana, I think Tijuana is different. I see a lot of folk coming across and having to come here because they work here. They work here. But I feel there's a lot of people under, like, quietly, they don't want the people from TJ to cross over to work here. Like, the other day I went to go get breakfast at McDonald's, and I got a comment. And this is a really nice lady. I mean, she's always helped me out. I mean, she's always there and taking my orders, remembering my orders and stuff. But she was so upset and frazzled because she was low on labor. She didn't have enough people because a lot of the folks that work in McDonald's are crossing from Tijuana. And they're getting there late. And she's so upset. She's like, oh my God, I can't believe why they gave them the morning shift. Why can't they hire people here to work the morning shift? Like, it's upsetting her. And that they can't make it on time. And logistically, you understand her situation, but also you have to understand the situation that they're dealing with. I mean, they have family, kids at home that they probably need to make sure that they're ready for school. They have to cross here because they have to work the better job because it's better wages here. And
yeah, but also they're living over there because the rent is cheaper than here.
Yeah.
So it's not that they want to do this, but they have to do it.
Yeah.
Because they can't rent here working
the jobs, the wages that we're getting paid here. The wages that they're getting paid here does not cover the cost of living here in San Diego or anywhere in California for that matter. If you looked at the real estate in California, it's ridiculous. And yet still, we take for granted the workers that cross here to work with the subpar wages that they can't afford to live here in the United States. Even though they probably are legal immigrants and they could purchase, like they could rent. They have the capability to rent. I mean, they're allowed to rent. They're allowed to rent, but they don't have the financial capabilities to rent because of the wages they work under. Mm-hmm. You know, and so we may complain, like as citizens may complain about certain things, but they are doing the sacrifice to come over here to do that because they're working jobs that us American citizens don't want to work. So consider that. If you're listening in Virginia, if you're listening in Georgia or the Carolinas or somewhere in the middle America, consider the fact that these people are coming here doing the work that a lot of American citizens here don't want to work. And yeah, you know what? A lot of Californians are elitist. That's there. I said it. I mean, I don't count myself as one because I've worked the lower tier jobs. My wife has worked the lower tier jobs. We worked our way up. You know, and we remember where we came from. But there are a lot of folks here who won't even touch it. They won't even touch it. They're so elitist. They just don't. They hold their nose up to it, you know. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the stereotype is there are a lot of white folk who do that. Yes or no? What do you think, Nettie?
Yeah,
it's a lot of white people. I mean, they work the Mexicans work the McDonald's and keep the lines moving. Who do you think owns a McDonald's? It's the white couple who live up north in the fancy side of town. It's just the reality of things. This is the perception, and yet we the Mexicans are the threat. This is the hypocrisy, guys. It's the absolute hypocrisy. Oh man.
There is bad people and good people of any race.
Any race, any creed, any belief, yeah.
There's good people and bad people.
And and that's a good point, because I mean, both sides of the spectrum are represented in the shootings that happened last weekend. Like we talked about El Paso, but in Dayton, Ohio, the attacker is not a Republican or anything like that. He's not right wing. He's not a Trump supporter. This dude was a left wing gun fanatic. He sympathized with Antifa, which is Antifa. I don't know, Nereida, I don't think you know, but Antifa is like an anti-fascist group. They're against big corporations, big conglomerates, and they protest, and they do a lot of violent protests. They think they're very aggressive in their protesting and stuff, and they are leaning towards aggression. And so this guy who attacked the people outside the nightclub, he had an affinity towards violence. And this is not a Republican. He's not a Trump supporter.
But his sister was there. He also killed his sister. So did he know that his sister was there?
I think so. I think he just was a hateful man. He was just a hateful man. He had his list, and I'm sure his list included his sister. I mean, and that's why when they say Trump is the problem, I think the current political and social climate right now is really bad. It's extreme on both sides, and it's a bit of exposure to, I don't know if it's the media, it's the information they get, or the influences they get at home, as we mentioned earlier. But something is causing this divide that's pushing everyone to sides. Nobody's trying to meet in the middle no more and just live a chill life. It's just everyone's being pulled to these sides, and they're lashing out. And then also point out that the recent shootings only enforce the reality that this can happen anywhere. It happens in malls and stores, restaurants, movie theaters, places of worship, and even our schools. We mentioned earlier Sandy Hook. It's been 7 years since Sandy Hook, and we haven't had any changes. As parents, knowing that when we send our kids to school, that we never know that there may be a disturbed student, a disturbed adult from the outside coming in, wanting to do harm to our kids. What is the response? What is the sensible response to this stuff? Tell me exactly what you brought up to me this tonight about something a measure that you wanted to take, and something that you wanted to look into.
Oh yeah, the vest.
The bulletproof vest.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't the first time.
I think they're already selling the backpacks at the Walmart. I'm not sure. I think I read an article about that. But I don't think that will be 100% safe because the kids are not wearing their backpacks all the time at school. Right.
So and before this, like I remember a year ago that you brought up the bulletproof vests because of what happened in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something, it's weird to be at a point where you're considering it, where you're looking up prices and seeing if it fits, or if you should get a size larger just to make sure it covers them for high school. And maybe this is an extreme response in many people's eyes and views, but at this point, I would have to say this. To those who say you worry too much, look in the mirror. Then look where you stand and tell me if you are in a position to tell anyone anything about how to cope with the situation. the immigration talk has been something that we've had to talk about with our kids, right, Nereida? We have had to talk about what is happening currently. I mean, what do you, for the people listening right now, how do you see the immigration situation? We're going to go back to the shooting right now, but I kind of want to preface it about what's starting this, what the shooter and what other people are saying are so angry and reactionary about. What's the immigration situation that we got right now?
Well, I think this immigration, I don't know if I should call it problem, but it's been happening for years now. It's not something new where people are trying to cross the border. People are been doing this for years. It's just that now we have more people coming from other places around the world, and it seems like they're coming like this desperately, where they don't care. I mean, we've seen people trying to cross, running right by the border, where when you're doing the line to cross into the United States in car, and we've seen people just trying to run
through the boarding crossing,
through the cars.
Yeah, there's like a level of desperation now that is that it's being seen more and more by people. People are more aware, and thanks to social media and the stories from both sides, people are hearing the tales. I a while back, I remember hearing about the folks who climbed the border over by the beach, by Imperial Beach.
Yeah, they were using like a towel or a blanket or something. They were using that just to climb up and be able to cross.
Yes. And this was happening all in front of border agents, where they chased them down and they apprehended them. A lot of these folks aren't Mexican nationals. That's the thing. They're not Mexican nationals. A lot of these folks are coming from Honduras, from Guatemala, from Salvador. There's a collection of Haitians out there. People from Africa as well. Eritrea there's a lot of Eritreans now out in Tijuana, in the border city of Tijuana, and some have tried to cross. Chinese as well. Mm-hmm. Everyone tries to go through Mexico, and so Mexico kind of gets the bad rep because that's where they're coming from. They're coming from Mexico, but they don't necessarily reside in Mexico. A lot of them are coming from different parts of the world, and they're coming through Mexico. Security issues with Mexico, yes, there are some. There are definitely some. I mean, the border between Guatemala and Mexico is really bad. I mean, we've seen pictures and video of the way it looks, and people don't care. They just climb over easy. Mm-hmm. And Mexico has an immigration problem, and that problem becomes the problem in the United States when they start crossing. And it got a lot of press because of the administration's handling of the immigrants, putting them in cells. Some would call cages, separating them from families, delay process to get them reunited with families, having kids hunkered down together of various ages watching over each other because there's no parental units, and the lack of oversight from immigration and the border patrol. It's really bad. It looks bad. It is bad, and it's something that a lot of Democrats and a lot of just people in general are just they're embarrassed and they're sick by it. You know, and we understand that there's an immigration problem. And as Mexicans, Mexican Americans, we know that there has to be some reform. There has to be changes. And all that has to be done through our political arena, through people who vote for us, who represent us. And yet nothing really happens. As much as we hate, hate's a strong word, because I don't think I hate the president. I don't. In fact, I kind of I defend sometimes some of the things, some of the moves, because it's almost evil genius, almost strategic in a way. It's kind of, the president of the United States isn't the only problem in this. It's a lot of, like, with our representatives, and I think that we haven't really seen much change in terms of helping these immigrants crossing over.
No.
Like, you want to explain how you made it here? How you made it to the United States? How you are not an illegal immigrant?
No, I'm not, and I wasn't before. Ever since I was a kid, I have passport. Since I was, I don't know, maybe like 3 years old, I always have passport, and always crossing, coming here with my family to visit or to buy things, until my mom got married with this person. I don't remember how many years, but she got married with this person, with my father-in-law, and we went through the process. He was a American citizen, and he helped us, and he gave us the opportunity to be able to do something else, and especially for me too, because that was a huge opportunity, to be able to become a resident back then. And so we went through the process. We did all this thing where we have to go to Ciudad Juarez.
Yeah.
There's so many, they give you to choose to either do it through Mexico and you have to go there, or to do it here, come here in the United States, but you have to stay here. I don't remember for how long, not be able to go back to Mexico until you are legally a resident. Mm-hmm.
So you chose the former.
You chose to do it through Mexico, so that way we can stay over there.
Yeah. So you're still residing in Mexico while taking care of the process. Mm-hmm. And how long was the process?
I don't remember. This was back in 2001. I'll say maybe a year or less.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so a year or so, let's say a year, it was a year, mm-hmm. and then you were finally a resident, mm-hmm. and then you were able to work here, you were able to go to school, mm-hmm. and you were able to, just acclimate again and be part of the American dream, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's the United States. You kind of really don't see did it feel like a big change?
No, because I always come here. Like, it wasn't my first time crossing, so I was used to it.
Look, we understand that this is our point of view. Mm-hmm. I know way too many single, childless, millennial people who have their brains switched off to even humor this opinion. Sometimes we need to be accountable for the culture we raise our kids, as well as ourselves. What impression are we leaving, right? When we do these things, when we make the decisions. Do we really want people to emulate that? Or do we really want to do the do nothing approach either? like saying, "Oh, you know what? That was over there. That was a one-time incident. You don't have to worry about that stuff." I mean, that's kind of like the slippery slope that allows like tragedies like this to happen if you do nothing. So, what we do now is we talk to our kids. Stay vigilant. We tell the kids to stay vigilant. They walk together. They don't walk, they go both in middle school right now, and we tell them, walk together. Stay together. Keep an eye out for each other. Anything suspicious activity, you have to report it. Don't take any jokes lightly anymore. You can't even take a joke lightly because there's some things that you just don't want to take a risk. How many white people have had to have a conversation with their kids about derogatory remarks? What's a derogatory remark for a white guy? Cracker? Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's it? That's all I can think of off the top of my head. All right. Try having a conversation with your kids about having to, watch out for the words spick, wetback. I mean, being told that you don't belong here.
Yeah.
We lived through that stuff. So we're not talking out of school here. We went through that stuff. And to have that conversation with our kids, it's surreal. When you are listening to this podcast, you're thinking like, are they seriously thinking about bulletproof vests for the kids? It's not out of the realm of possibility, because right now there's a threat, and the threat is coming from this nationalistic ideology that's being promoted and perpetuated by white Americans.
Mm-hmm.
This is just what it is. So, I understand there's a lot of inactivity in Congress. I am so much into the political spectrum that I understand this. And so I read the manifesto and I'm like, okay, I see the points, but it does not merit a response like this. In fact, it kills your whole point. There's a system that we believe in. And if you truly are a nationalist, you believe in your system, you believe in the rule of law, you're going to go through the political process to push for change, for compromise, for reform. You're not going to pick up your gun and start mowing down Mexicans or blacks or homosexuals or other minorities in this country. Wrapping things up right now. As a parent, as a Mexican American, as a citizen, what do you want to say? What would you want people to know or hear from you?
I think that we should, I don't know if watch for each other. All I can think right now, it's like, for example, if you go to the store, watch like any suspicious activity and tell somebody else in the store, or I don't know, we have to be together and try to watch
each other's
each
back.
other. Mm-hmm.
We have to be vigilant. We have to teach our kids to be vigilant. We have to teach our kids to be better than ourselves, to not carry these racist ideas. And as sad as it says, even right here, we're sitting right here, and a lot of the stuff I'm pointing at is white nationalism. I myself am picking on a stereotype. I am profiling somebody. This is the point that we have reached. That ourselves we have fallen into this. And I don't want this for my kids. I don't want them to have to profile on a color or a political affiliation. I'll give you one example. Last week, a day after the El Paso shooting, we had a talk about whether or not we were going to go to the Lemon Festival. It's a local event that happens here in Chula Vista, and it happens every year. But we didn't want to live in fear. We didn't want to show that for our kids. We wanted to be an example that we can still do things, right? Mm-hmm. And we did it. We went. The police presence was obvious there. You know, every corner you can see a police officer there, armed, in case of anything, of any situation that might arise. Mm-hmm. But you know what really caught my attention? There was one man, an older gentleman, who walked hurriedly past us. A lanky fellow wearing a red Make America Great Again hat. And I couldn't help but to look twice at that gentleman. Only because of the hat. Of what he was affiliated with. And what possibly his agenda may be. And I felt terrible. But I understood the reality of it. Mm-hmm. I have to do this.
You don't know anymore.
You don't know anymore. And sometimes we're quick to judge Mexican Americans, African Americans. We're quick to judge profiling. We're just like, that's just wrong, straight through and through. You know, we look at the black and white, no pun intended. But now you kind of understand why you have to kind of categorize and profile and watch, because you never know. You never know. Thanks again to my wife, Nereida Rivera, for joining me on this rant. And for all of you who tuned in and listened, I appreciate it. Remember to join the palaver on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Spread it to your friends and family. Let us know what you would like to hear down the line. If you don't like this kind of conversation, let me know. Let us know. This is just something we need to get off our chest. I need to get off our chest. I was sitting on this for a week now. And we've had conversations early on, and I just wanted to go back and try to do this again, a little fresh and off the cuff. And I hope Nereida, you got something out of it, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. I do. I don't know, I just want people, I wish we don't have to be afraid of going on an event, going to the store. I wish none of this happen, and it's turning bad, and it's sad too. It's very sad.
Yeah. I mean, you've been married to me for 13 years now, and you know me. I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place. I'm not Mexican because I don't speak the language that well, and if I try to speak the language over there, they can immediately tell I'm from here, United States, and then when I'm here, and we go to all these places. You know, color to me doesn't matter. I'm colorblind to that kind of stuff. I can go to La Jolla and we can mingle and hang where a bunch of white families are at. Or Coronado, where it's predominantly white people that we see out there. And you don't see me bat an eye. I don't hesitate. Right? Mm-hmm. Balboa Park. These places where San Diego, think about it, there's still a predominant white presence. I'm not cornered myself into San Isidro or Old Chula Vista and just stay there because that's where it's predominantly Mexican, or Barrio Logan, because it's Mexican, that's where my people are at. No, no, no. I go everywhere and anywhere because it's my right as a United States citizen to go everywhere and anywhere. And now, as we get more aware of this undercurrent of prejudice, you know, I'm going to continue to take my family wherever and anywhere, because that is my goddamn right as a United States citizen. And we are
to be anywhere.
Anywhere and everywhere. And we're going to continue to do it because we believe in this country. Folks, rate and review, subscribe and share, and just make a change, whatever it may be. Make it a positive change.
Parents need to make a change with the new generation coming, the kids. We can
talk to them,
mm-hmm.
and listen to them, and listen. Talk to your kids. Your words are not wasted. Remember that. As long as they come from the heart and not from your ass. So, for Nereida Rivera, I'm Michael Rivera. This is the Palaver Project. As you were.